if I could change my bracket, I would pick Houston.
I think this has become completely a narrative award. People are sick of seeing Jokic win the award. Would not be surprised if Dortmund would knock them out, though. Dortmund have been known to knock Barcelona out of the Champions League. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the From the Stands podcast. We are back for episode number 59 here on this 4th day of April on a Friday, coming at you at around almost 10 p.m. here. So a little bit of a late pod as we usually kind of get on here and do at this point. I feel like we're doing more late ones than early ones at this point, but hence is what we have to deal with when we have full-time jobs and whatnot. So got another jam-packed episode for you guys. Going to touch a little bit on the Final Four of the college basketball tournament that's coming up this weekend. Very exciting times for that. The lull between like the really hype games where you have a game like every day and then there's like a big lull and then the Final Four is kind of weird, but getting pretty hype about that. And then we all obviously have some NBA talk as well, which we've been pretty light on the last few months, but we're coming a little bit closer to the playoff time there and some awards and everything. So we're going to talk about that. And then we are coming down to the best time as far as soccer is concerned. So we're going to probably spend a little bit more time on the soccer than anything else, which is a little bit rare as well. So a little bit of a different one for you guys, but nonetheless, very, very excited to get into it. But Fezzy boy, what's been going on in your neck of the woods? What we got going on?
Well, I'm a little tired because I worked all day yesterday, and then I went over and helped you get some of your floor done, which was cool. Nice to hang out with you and get some of that knocked out. Then I got home and my wife had some friends over, so we were hanging out with them late. And then I was up at 5:30 this morning, so just a little tired, but we're here. We're here. I got my grind pack stuffed in my lip right now to give me some caffeine. So we're trying everything over here, but we're gonna bring the energy for you guys. But we do have a huge shout out, by the way. You want to shout this guy out? Good friend of us, good friend of the pod.
Yeah, huge shout out for the boy, Jared Franco. Found out he listens to the pod actually a couple weeks ago. He says he listens basically every week, which is really, really solid. I know we have several friends that kind of are in and out, don't listen every week. So it's cool that he listens, and he was telling me he really enjoys the soccer part of the podcast, which not many of our friends actually enjoy. So it's really cool to see that he really enjoys that part and everything. So we used to play soccer with him every Thursday, I think it was. So good buddy of ours, and thankfully he listens to the podcast. I don't know if you have anything to add about that, but big shout out to him.
Yeah, big shout out to him. Little do people know that this was actually originally a soccer podcast before we really got into it. And then we transitioned into having like one segment that we jam packed like all the other sports into. And that segment ended up being like 45 minutes long every pod. So then eventually we were just like, we like other sports a lot as well, not just soccer. So we were just like, let's just make it a sports podcast. So here we are. But we do talk soccer, and it is cool that Jared listens to the soccer portion, because I know a lot of my friends, they're just like, yeah, I listen to the football part or the basketball part, but when it gets to the soccer part, we kind of shut it off. And I was like, that's fair, I guess. But we appreciate that Jared.
It's fitting that we're giving Jared a shout out on a podcast for a little bit more heavy on the soccer side. So that's
good. Sir. So this one is for Jared. This is for you, Jared. If you're, I'm assuming you'll listen to this, but this is for you, and we appreciate you. That means a lot that you listen faithfully every week. That's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Not too much going on in my neck of the woods either. Just kind of working on the house some more and everything. Super huge that Fezzy boys able to come to my house last night and help out with the flooring. That's been a whole nother story that maybe it'll be for another day, but it's been taking way too long to get that done. But it's all good. We got, like I said, a jam-packed episode for you guys. I'm going to try to bring the energy. I think both of us are a little bit tired right now, but we'll get into it here in just a second.
All right, we are down to the final 4 teams in the NCAA Men's National Championship. Bit chalky. The first time, I think, since 2008 that we have all number 1 seeds, but we got people on both sides of the fence right now. A lot of people are up in arms about, there's not enough Cinderellas this year, this, that, and the other, death of the mid-majors making any runs in the NCAA tournament due to NIL and transfer portal. That's a whole topic that we kind of got into a couple episodes ago or last episode. I can't remember. But honestly, I side on the side where people are talking about like, this is what we want. You know, we want to get down to the end of the tournament and we want the 4 best teams. And like, ideally, and normally you have 2 really good teams, but like, I think this is the first time in a long time, obviously, since 2008, where you can say any one of these teams could win the national championship. But I don't know what side you kind of fall on. How do you see this shaking out? And yeah, what side do you fall on? Like, would you rather see more Cinderellas, or do you like that we have the best of the best in the Final Four this year?
Yeah, I think my opinion on it is kind of weird. I haven't really heard anybody else that kind of agrees with me, but I like seeing the Cinderellas up to a point, like maybe max Elite Eight, probably Sweet
Right.
16. Like that's cool, win a couple games, 1 or 2 games. But yeah, at the end, you definitely want to see the top teams. I mean, I think I came on the podcast last couple weeks, really just down that we weren't seeing upsets, and that's true. But it would have been cool to see a double-digit seed win a couple games, but I felt like we got like almost none of that. But yeah, it's like we're coming to the very end of the season. You definitely want to see the top teams, and I think these are the 4 best teams in the country, really. So, second time ever it's been all 1 seeds, like you said, first time since '08.
Yeah, since 08. I think that was, I'm not gonna get it right. I think it was like Kansas, Memphis. I think maybe Duke or
To have been
something. I don't know.
Florida, because I think Florida won that year. 7 and 8 they
You're
won,
right.
or was it
I
six
think
and seven?
I don't know. I'm not I'm not too good with the past
The only reason
tournaments.
I know that is because I remember everybody was talking last year when UConn went back to back that they were the first team since the Billy Donovan Florida teams to go back to back, and I can't remember if that was 6 and 7 or 7 and 8. But that's
Yeah.
the only reason I kind of
Uh,
remembered that.
oh, there we go.
Uh,
Yeah,
I also
Kansas,
remember
Memphis.
they were the first college team to hold football national title with Tim Tebow and basketball national title at the same time. So that's pretty lit.
Oh, really? Dang, that's
Yeah.
huge. That was a good year for Florida for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah,
imagine being in school at Florida at the time. Like nobody
dude,
else can talk about anything sports wise when you go to Florida. Any other schools below you, bro.
dude, for real, they own college sports that
And that
year.
those are
That's
the top 2 sports. Like you can't get like just football and
right.
basketball. Like we own
Yeah,
everybody. Like
no one cares about anything else, especially in '08. Like no one cared about
yeah,
soccer or anything back
right.
then. It was
Lacrosse
football
or
and
whatever the
basketball.
frick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's what a good year for Florida. But anyways, kind of getting back to this year's Final Four, I do believe people are saying that since Ken Palm started, which is just a way of them ranking, you know, defense and offense efficiency of all the teams, all 4 of these teams, not only are they the top, obviously the number 1 seeds, but they are the top 4 teams um, rated in KenPom since it started. And I think it was started in like 93 or something like that. So historically, these are even better than any national championship team that we've had in like the past like 30 years or something like that. So
Wow.
we have the best of the best this year. So it's shaping up to be a really, really good Final Four, which will start tomorrow around 6. And then I think Duke and Houston will finish off at 9. We're going to get into the first game, Auburn versus Florida, a rematch of SEC opponents. Florida actually beat Auburn in their conference schedule. And that was kind of Florida's like first time like bursting out of the scene where everyone was like, okay, Florida's like, they might be elite. They might be the real deal. I remember watching it. I think it was Auburn's first in conference loss that season, this season as well. But how do you see this game going, Sammy? And who do you got in this one?
I got Florida, man. Picked them in my bracket to go to the championship. Sticking with it. I really like what Clayton is doing over there. Just kind of taking over this tournament. He's played really well in basically all their games in the tournament. I like their big guy as well, Condon. He's basically averaging not triple double, a double double in the tournament. Just a really solid big man, really smart big man from what I've seen from them this year. Just doesn't make a lot of dumb fouls. Like you see a lot of big guys in college just like kind of commit dumb fouls or just get caught in the wrong spots and stuff. But I haven't really seen him do that too much. So I do like Auburn. I will say Janai Broom has been quite a bit better than I thought he was going to be. Like at the beginning of the tournament, I was kind of on the fence whether or not he was going to be good or not, just because he's been pretty inconsistent at times this year for Auburn. But big props to him. He did get hurt. I think it was either the last game or the one before that. Came back, gave his team a good push late in the second half. So I do think that ultimately Florida is going to be too big, too athletic, have the better players at the end of the day, or more of the better players on the court. And I do think that they go to the championship.
Yeah, I got Florida in this one as well. I just think a lot of people are kind of holding it against Florida. You know, they played a close game against UConn, close game against Maryland, really, really close game against Texas Tech. I think they were down like 9 with like 7 or 8 minutes to go, and they actually ended up fouling with like 4 minutes left, like a little bit of a gamble by their coach. And obviously they got lucky. Both players that they fouled missed the front end of the 1-and-1s, and they ended up, coming back and win that game. Walter Clayton hitting some huge shots. But I actually think that that's going to benefit Florida. And like I said, I
Yeah,
have
battle
Florida winning
tested.
this game. Yeah, battle tested. Like they're in closer games. They're going to play harder so they don't get into those situations. I was watching a lot of, watching slash listening at work to a lot of the coaches' press conferences, and all these coaches, even like Duke and Houston, have huge respect for like Auburn, Florida, and vice versa. And so I think Florida's not going to go into this game, thinking like we beat them once, we're going to roll them. Obviously, they're professional enough to take this seriously, but I just think Auburn, I don't know, they came into the tournament kind of like not playing their best basketball. Obviously had who did they play in the first round? I can't remember. They played
Auburn.
obviously they're in the 1 seed. What's that?
Who are you talking about?
Auburn. Who did they play in the first round?
Oh, first round, 16
I
seed.
mean, obviously it was
I
a
can't
16 seed,
remember.
so obviously
Yeah.
they started out with an easier team. I mean, so did Florida, but then Florida jumped right to Duke. I can't remember who Auburn played in the second round. Creighton. I mean, I guess they both had their hands full, but I just think
They played
Florida's been battle
Alabama
tested.
State in the first round.
Alabama State, which they did give them a little bit of push. Now that I remember, I watched that game. But anyways, I have Florida, and I definitely think that they're gonna, it will be a close game regardless, because again, these are two really good teams. They've met before. SEC is definitely the strongest conference this season. But yeah, I got Florida. I actually have Florida winning it all, but I have them beating
Mm.
Houston, which will kind of segue us into the next game. We got Duke versus Houston nightcap tomorrow night. This one's gonna be a good one. You got the number one rated offense versus the number one rated defense. This is the game. And
Yeah.
honestly, nothing against Auburn and Florida, but I looked at this matchup. I was like, this is the national championship game in my opinion. Like nothing against Auburn and Florida,
Wow.
because
Interesting.
I lied. I have Florida winning. Never mind. But that, like, in retrospect, like now that we've gone through the tournament, I think Houston. Like, if I could change my bracket, I would pick Houston,
Hmm.
honestly, because dude,
Over
did you
Duke
see?
and Florida?
Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm
Interesting.
saying. I think on this side of the bracket, these are the two best teams, and then you got, if you were to rank them, I would probably rank, you know, Duke, Houston, Florida, Auburn in that order. But I think Houston can beat Duke just because of their defense. Did you see what they did to Tennessee?
Yeah, I was gonna get into that, and whenever you asked me
Well,
about my opinion, but
yeah, I'll kind of hand it off to you, dude. 15 points in the first half is all Tennessee could muster up against that Houston defense. Crazy.
yeah, yeah, absolutely took the Vols to the shed, bro. Like,
Took them out
it
back, bro.
was, yeah, exactly.
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know if you remember, it was either last week or the week before. It was when we were talking about the Clemson game. That's what it was. Where you're
Yeah.
like you're kind of on the side of one team, and like I've been known to be, erring on the side of the Vols kind of all year, just because I like some of their players, like their coach, blah blah. But obviously they got down super early, and then you're just kind of like you're kind of holding out hope, like hopefully they come back. Like I was rooting for them for my bracket because I had them in the Final Four too. Um,
Yeah.
but you're like, hopefully they'll come back. They just need this and that to happen. You need to stop them here, blah blah. And then like at some point, like pretty early on, you're just like, I don't think they're gonna come back. Like
No.
no, I don't think anything's gonna happen. But there were several points where Tennessee would start to make a couple runs, but they just could not stop them on offense. Like every time they would make a little bit of a run, they're like, all right, need another stop here. Just easy 2 point like layup, like pretty easy stuff. But like you said, Houston's defense is number one in the country for a reason. And like you said, Tennessee kind of hinged or they kind of relied on that high octane offense, led by Chaz Lanier and Ziegler
Yeah.
to really propel them as far as they've gotten so far. And they weren't able to do anything. Like you said, 15 points in the first half? That's unheard of for the Vols all season. So their defense is absolutely locked down. I think they're going to give Duke a good run for their money in this one for sure. If they can get the balanced scoring like they did against the Volunteers, I think they're going to be a lot to handle from Duke. But I'm not sure if you're going to ask me my prediction, but I'll go ahead and get into it anyway. I do think that Duke is ultimately going to come out on top though, because I don't think that Houston has
Interesting.
faced a team or a player like Cooper Flag all year. And the way that he's able to, the smart player that he is, the way he's able to get his teammates involved, what he gives you on the defensive end too. He's so long and athletic. Like I said, they haven't really seen something like that all year, and the way he's able to take over games. I do have Duke, but just by a smidge. I like Concanipple as well. Like I was watching a couple. There's like a little not a series, but like a little feature that ESPN had on him. Like just super smart kid, like, came from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He apparently got like 4 younger brothers coming up right after him, probably all going to
Dang.
Duke too. So
Probably, dude.
kind of a cool story, but he's just a really smart player, gets his teammates
Yeah.
involved, smart passes. So I got Duke, but I think it's going to be a tight game, 5 points or less, probably.
Dang. Yeah.
I hope
It's definitely
anyway.
gonna Yeah, it's definitely gonna come down to 1 or 2 possessions at the end of the game. I envision like both of these games being close. Like by any means, when I pick who I think I'm gonna win, I don't think it's gonna be a blowout on any side of the bracket. Do you have Duke in your bracket? Is that who you had originally?
That's my champion. Yeah. They've done
Gotchas,
nothing
gotchas.
but solidify my my pick there. They've kind of rolled through so far. I had Houston losing pretty early. I was not a big Houston faithful in my bracket, but they've obviously proved me wrong. So
Yeah, they've come into their own during the tournament. I actually in my bracket I have Houston over Duke. I have Houston losing to Florida in the
hmm.
national championship game. And I'm not really going to give you this argument to like switch your opinion because I like betting with Duke is not a bad thing. Like I mean, they're the favorites to win in all the betting markets and like everyone's saying they're going to win. The thing that I kind of think why Houston can beat them is because if you take a look at Duke's only loss in the ACC, and we'll talk about the fact that Duke plays in the ACC, Houston plays in the Big 12, and that factors in as well. But Clemson was the only team able to beat Duke. Granted, the game was close, and you can say, "Oh yeah, if the floor wasn't wet, Cooper Flag hits the game winner, Clemson doesn't even win." Yada yada. But it's the size that they're able to throw at them, the length that
Yeah.
they had with Locken and Shefflin.
Yeah.
The different sizes. I don't think they had a lot of size, which is why the game was close. But that's
Yeah.
the only team that beat Duke in the ACC, and they had shot makers with Hunter and a few of the other guys that could shoot threes. And that's the thing about Houston. Their defense is number one in the country, so they're gonna give Duke a hard time, regardless of what Duke's seen during the season. But they haven't seen a Houston all season because they played in the ACC. And again, like the only team close to that was like a Duke. Louisville had some size, but other than that, there really was no competition in the ACC. But this year, Houston's
Yeah.
actually the number one ranked 3-point shooting team in the tournament. So they got offense, they got shot makers, and I think what's going to happen is Duke really thrives off of their offense turns into defense a lot of the time, and they usually get their offense going. Again, the number one offense efficiency in the country, but if they're having a hard time on the offensive end, they're exerting energy on both sides of the floor, which I don't think they had to do. I mean, everyone's talking about how they shut down Alabama. But Alabama doesn't play defense, so they're not exerting themselves on one side of the court, and they can put all their energy into one playing defense and then using that to turn into offense. And I just think Houston's going to stifle that. But you were going to say something.
I was just gonna say that's actually who I had beating Houston in the Sweet 16 was Clemson. So
Mm.
just kind of a interesting interesting pick
Yeah.
there by me. But
Yeah.
yeah, you make a really good point for sure. So I'm not sure how much more you had to say about that, but I was just gonna get you to give the people a little bit update on the bracket challenge,
The
the
bracket
group that we
challenge.
got going on, huh?
Yeah, let's pull
If
that
you
up
don't,
here.
I have it up if you wanted me to kind of roll through it. But our one and only Fez is in first place.
Yeah, dude.
kind of
No
running away
payout.
with it a little bit here.
No
Like
payout. The plan worked. The plan worked. I in my head, I totally like. Obviously, it's so hard to pick a bracket, and you never know if you're gonna be right. But I was just like, you know
top
what? It'd be really nice if like, I won it, so we didn't have to pay out $100 to the
yeah.
winner. But
Top three, we'll just give shout outs here, I guess, is obviously Fez. He's at 990 with a max score of 1630. So not only are you in first place, but you obviously have the most points to gain still. You're in the 87th percentile, which is pretty good. Jessica Teeter is in second place, but her champion is out. So I don't think she's going to be. She's already maxed
dude,
out her points. So
yeah, she
um,
jumped right up because she was the only person to take Arkansas for whatever reason, and Arkansas ended
yeah.
up winning. And well, one, they beat Kansas. I didn't even have Arkansas beating Kansas. Then they beat St. John's, and yeah, she shot right up the leaderboards after that. So
Yeah, unfortunately for her, I don't think she's going to be hanging on to that number 2 spot for much
yeah,
longer.
no,
But and then third is Tara Kinney with 920 points, still 70 points off old Fezzy boy here. But her max is pretty solid at 1560, so we'll see what happens. But
we'll
looks
see what
like
happens.
as long as Florida gets to the championship, I think you'll probably win the whole thing. So
Yeah, unless
I'm
like
not sure who you had
Auburn
your
and
final
Duke
four,
end up.
but
Yeah. No, my I had a chalky final four. I went with chalk this year, and that's probably the only reason that, I'm doing as well as I am. But like if Auburn wins and then Duke wins, like that could really things could get interesting for sure. Tara could definitely catch me after that. But
awesome.
yeah, we appreciate everybody joining in, playing the bracket challenge. It's been fun. We'll definitely do it again next year, see if we can get a few more people. With that being said, we're also I don't know how many people are going to actually listen to this, but like we're actually at like 85 followers on Instagram. We have gained a few over the last weeks. If we could get to like 100 in the next couple of weeks, that would be huge. That'd be pretty cool. So just throwing that in there. I didn't have a whole lot left to say about Duke and Houston. Obviously, like I said, I have Houston winning, but falling short to Florida in the championship game. I just think they're also their experience. Like they have like one transfer portal guy and like a bunch of like 4, 5, 6 year guys playing, and Duke's playing three freshmen. Obviously, they're all lottery picks. The freshmen that they have, they're going to be one and dones. They're going to be in the NBA next year. But I think that experience definitely will help them, especially when the lights get bright. They're playing in a big football stadium in Indiana, and I don't know. I just have a at the beginning of it, I just felt like Houston was coming into the tournament hot. I think their experience, their coach is really good, and just the way they play defense. Defense wins championships. It's kind of cliche, but all these teams in the Final Four can play defense, and they're not there by accident. But it will be interesting to see. Definitely gonna have the TV on tomorrow, watching the Final Four. Could be glued to the TV. We're in for some really good games. I would be shocked if there was like some crazy upset, which would just be wild. But definitely going to be tuned into those, and we'll see who is cutting down nets Monday night.
Keeping it on the basketball side of things, we're going to talk a little bit more NBA this time around. We haven't really been touching on the NBA too much with college basketball going on, and before that, we had football. Kind of been putting has been put on the back burner a little bit the last really few months. Really, we haven't talked about it much at
Yeah.
all. But we're about to get into the really hype part of the NBA season where everybody starts to try, or so they say. So we are at the very exciting part of the NBA season. We have a couple games to highlight here that are feel like playoff games. So it definitely does feel like it's that time of year. So we'll actually get into some award races at the end of the segment as well. But I want to start off by the Warriors beating the Lakers 123-116. Our old boy Steph putting up 37, kind of turning back the clock a bit
Huge.
here. He was looking a little bit washed at the beginning of the season, not gonna lie, or not, maybe not washed, but maybe not what we were kind of used to seeing Steph put up as far as numbers and everything. Talks of retirement, yada yada. And then they kind of traded for Jimmy Butler, and all of a sudden he looks like old Steph, and he's been putting up a lot more points and a lot better numbers, and kind of dragging the Warriors back up the NBA standings here. So what do you got to say about the Warriors coming in clutch and beating the Lakers, who they made Luka struggle quite a bit? So what do you got to say about the Warriors kind of climbing up the ranks here?
Yeah, that Butler trade is looking real nice right now. Kind of like you were saying, it gave Steph like this new resurgence of life because like he was looking really dead at the beginning. And like to be honest, he's a competitor. And like when you see your
He's
when you've
carrying.
been to when you've been to the mountaintop and then you see what you're working with and kind of just seeing like like
Yeah.
you lose Clay and you're working with a lot of young guys that coming into the league might not be professional and all that and you know that you got more left in the tank. That can be a bit demoralizing. But now that they got Butler, who can be, well, they're both in the starting lineup, but also when Steph goes out, Steph can rest longer because now you got a second option, a second star that you can kind of defer to, which helps him out a lot. But I was trying to pull up the stat lines because that he's not a rookie. I think it's his second year.
Yeah,
Pajensky,
Pods went off
dude.
for 28 points, 8 for 10 from three. So he's filling that
Yeah,
Klay Thompson role pretty well.
dude, he was hot at the beginning. It was the AR and Pajensky show at the beginning. Like they were going back and forth trading threes. I was like, dude, this is crazy. What am I watching right now? Two white boys going at it. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, this is nuts. But no, huge win for the Warriors, honestly, because a lot of people were talking with Luka, and still could be the case, like if they put it together a little bit more, but everyone was saying that they were going to win the West. They were going to go to the finals. Maybe
That's
not
all
win
media
it, but
hype, bro.
it's all
All
media hype.
media hype.
Like again, granted, you have to take what the media says about the Lakers with a grain of salt. But like last night, the Warriors really showed like, nah, you got to worry about us. Like we're playing our best basketball right now. I think they before the Jimmy Butler trade, they were like 11th in the West, and now they're what are they fifth right now?
The Lakers or the
Warriors,
Warriors?
Warriors. Sorry.
Warriors are, yes, they are fifth. Right behind
Yeah,
the
so
Lakers.
that's crazy. I think they're like 19-2 since they acquired Jimmy. They're like unbeaten since Draymond said that they were going to win the championship this year. Like I don't know, man. They just might. I remember it's reminiscent of 2022 when Draymond was like, "Don't let us win a championship," and then they ended up winning a championship, and that went
Yeah.
down as one of the greatest quotes of that year. But yeah, I think a
Uh,
great win, great momentum.
yeah, I think it's funny that obviously I'm always going to defend Luca. And technically by his standards he did have a tough game, but he still scored 19 points, had 8 rebounds, 7 assists. So that's one of his bad games. I think everybody was kind of dogging him because he didn't make a three. It was the first time in 3 years he
Mm.
hadn't made a three in an NBA game. So
That's
his
crazy.
streak, obviously Curry has a longer one that, he has a longer streak of consecutive games with a three, but he had
Mhm.
a longer active streak than Curry has now. So
Wow.
that was a pretty impressive stat. But he didn't make a three. Obviously, with only 19 points, it's a little bit below his average and everything. So they said he struggled in this game. I can see that maybe by his standards he struggled, but overall, I mean, he's still over the last month or so, like he's 7-2 in the last 10 or 9-10 games. And he's doing fine. So I'm not, again, the LA media is like, you can put 15 great games together and then have one bad one and they're just dogging you and you're calling you fat and everything. So
Yeah.
not too worried about that. But yeah, I think the Warriors are very, very impressive, especially after that Jimmy Butler trade. So and it was weird because we even thought Jimmy Butler was kind of washed. Like he wasn't playing well at the Heat, and then he was kind of going about his diva activities, and we're like, what's his value really,
Right.
really at for real? And then got traded to the Warriors, and now all of a sudden they're kind of like a dark horse contender type of team right now. So
Yeah,
definitely
really
been
weird
just
trade.
turn that team around, and Pods is playing really well, like you touched on. So
So well. Yeah.
yeah, another game we'll look at here, just one that happened. I think it was I want to say Tuesday. It was earlier in the week, but Denver and Minnesota. This is a little bit of a rematch of last year's Western Conference semifinals. Actually, it wasn't a finals game, but going to double overtime. Denver ultimately losing to Minnesota. But the headline in this one, Nikola freaking Jokic, brother.
Dude.
61 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Only the third player ever to achieve a 60, 10, and 10 game. The other two being my boy Luka Doncic and James Harden, when James Harden was stuffing stat sheets like crazy back in 18 or whatever it was. So
Yeah.
humongous stat line for him, but unfortunately overshadowed by the fact that they actually lost the game. Like I said, in double overtime. Russell Westbrook getting a lot of the hate on this. I'm not sure if you saw the play, but ultimately about 15 seconds left on the clock, so obviously shot clock is off. He was able to steal the ball, 2-on-1 opportunity with Brown on the other end. Blows a layup. Should have probably just brought the ball out, dribbled it out, or tried to get fouled, whatever. Misses a layup, and then they come down. They still have the lead at this point, mind you. I think by one. They had to lead by
Yeah.
one at that point. And then Minnesota comes back down the other way, and ultimately he fouls a 3-point shooter, and they get 3 free throws, and they're able to sink them all, and there's less than a second left at that point. So he was getting a lot of hate.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
he always gets lots of hate just because I don't know why it's so fashionable to hate on him, but everybody was hating on him. So it's kind of his fault, on at least on that sequence for sure. So that's what's kind of overshadowing the amazing stat line by Jokic. But I'm not sure how much you saw on this. I know you're not too much of an NBA guy, at least until the playoffs, but I'm sure you at least heard some noise around that stat line and some of the happenings around that game.
Yeah, I was glad to see that mainstream media was kind of like grabbing a hold of the fact that, like, I mean, Jokic did something like incredibly historic, like 61, 10, and 10, dude. Again, like you named the two other guys that have done that. That's crazy. And obviously you have Luca, who's a generational talent, and then you have James Harden, like you said, when he was, dude, like that era of James Harden, like the
Crazy.
the the best, the best player that,
That step back, bro. Oh,
oh my gosh, lethal. But no, I'm just glad that it didn't get totally overshadowed by Russ's like absolute bonehead play. I don't know. I don't know if this counts as Shaqtin' a Fool worthy at the end of the season, but
yeah.
yeah, obviously the smart play is like you're always told from like high school basketball up, pull it out. If you have the lead, waste some clock. Game's gonna be over. They're gonna foul you, so you gotta go to the free throw line and get those points anyways.
Yeah.
Decided to take it, blows the layup, like you said. Yeah, I saw the replay and
It's
I was just
so
like,
not a vet move.
no,
Like I understand when it's like a 2-on-1, it seems like an easy layup. Like
right,
maybe you want to get the guaranteed 2 instead of trying to shoot free throws and possibly missing. I get that. But I don't know. Like it's just not a vet move. Like a vet would just
no,
bring that out, try to steal clock, maybe try to get it into the hands of a better free throw shooter if he's around, and try to win the game that way. But I feel like that was one thing, but then just coming back the other end and fouling
yeah,
a 3-point shooter, which granted,
yeah,
Homeboy was kind of already in the middle of a flop before Westbrook even got there. But even
right,
so, I think it was a foul. So the guy was like already like clutching as if he got fouled before Russ even got there. But either way, terrible, terrible look. Russ has actually played pretty well this season. That's why you haven't heard anything about him all season, is because he's actually been playing pretty decent. But then when he makes one of these bonehead plays, it's just all over everything. But
yeah,
yeah, unfortunately, that's how that game ends. But um, we'll kind of get into some of the award races now. I was talked a little bit about Jokic already, but we'll kind of take them one by one. I'm not sure if you have too much of an opinion on some of these. I'll kind of try to give a little bit of a context into some of these awards and kind of what's going on around them. But we'll take take the biggest one first. I actually was gonna originally put this last, but we'll talk about this one just to kind of keep the Jokic talk going. But it's basically a 2-man race at this point in the MVP. It's Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Even though you may not have much of an opinion on some of these other awards, I'm sure you have one about the biggest award here in Nikola Jokic against Shai. So I'll give it to you, and then I have some strong opinions about this one. So you can take it away first, though.
All right, yeah, I'll keep this brief because, like you said, I don't really get into it until playoffs or anything like that because there's a lot of load management and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just to cut to the chase, I would give it to Jokic, dude. He is just doing things that we haven't seen. And I was trying to look it up quick, and I might look it up while you're giving your spiel, but I think I did look up the amount of points that Shea has from free throws to the amount of points that Jokic has. From free throws. And I'm sure you're going to get into that a little bit, so I won't talk too much about it. But it was insane when I looked it up the other day, just absolutely lopsided. And I love Shea. I like how he plays. I don't like the I guess foul hunting that he does, which is where he
Yes.
gets a lot of his points from. A lot of people say that he's like untouchable, like you can't even get near him, and that's what makes him so hard and makes the game so easy for him to get his shot off and get to the bucket. But yeah, I would give it to Jokic. The man is just doing things that no man that size should be doing in the NBA at the highest level. And on top of that, doesn't give a crap about the NBA. Doesn't give a crap about the fact that he's one of the most famous basketball players in the world. All he cares about is making that money and racing his horses. That's all he
Yeah.
cares about. And I'm here for it.
I don't
And
know if
I
he
think
even cares about the money. He's probably just out there for he make enough money for the horses.
exactly, it's just supplemental income at this point. But
Right.
no, I'm a huge believer in just look at the stats, look at the play, whoever has the best stats. And like you can get into like what's most valuable mean, but I don't get that deep into it. Who's playing the best that year, give it to them. Don't be biased. I don't care that Jokic has 3 of the last 4 or 2 of the last 4. Like, give it to him. He's the best player.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think he is by far the best player in the NBA when you take his production and what he does for a team. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Yeah, I'll just take it from the beginning. Like just looking at their stats, bro. He's averaging a 30-point triple double. He's averaging 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. Whereas he scores a lot. He's at 33 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. So just looking at that right there, like if you just take those, obviously numbers isn't everything, but you'd be like, dude, this is like a no-brainer. Like I don't understand what we're even talking about here. But then when you get into the nitty-gritty of everything, Jokic is in the top 3 of like 5 stat categories. He's 3rd in points. He is 2nd in assists. Man's a center. 2nd in assists. He is 2nd in steals. And steals, bro. What center is getting you steals? He's 2nd in steals, and then in rebounds he is 3rd, behind only Domantas Sabonis and Karl Anthony Towns. Like that just he's doing everything for the team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is number 1 in points, but he's not even top 10 in all those other categories.
No.
That's just another thing right there. Another thing is how valuable you are to your team. I'm not going to get into all the advanced metrics and all the plus minuses on court, off court. So I'll just kind of, dwindle it down to the fact that when Jokic is off the court, the Nuggets literally cannot beat basically anyone. Whenever he goes off the court, it's an automatic. Like if they have a 15-point lead, the lead's going to be 5 when Jokic comes back. Basically every time, you can almost guarantee it. If they can hold, the other team to where they're at, that would be a win for the Nuggets. And I'm coming at this just for a little bit of context. I don't watch the NBA like every day or anything, but the games that I have watched is the Thunder, because my favorite team, and also the Nuggets because they have Jokic, who I consider to be the best player, and Russ, who used to be my favorite player. Still kind of a Russ fan, but so I've watched both of these teams the most out of any other team. And then when Shea goes off the court, he has basically the most, I would consider probably one of the deepest teams in the NBA. And the Thunder they're wagons this year, which obviously makes me really happy as a Thunder fan. He doesn't play a game and they still win the game by 30. We literally rested all 5 starters in a game a couple weeks ago and still won the game by 20 points. And it was against like a mid-tier Western Conference team. It wasn't some scrubs. So, and then another thing I want to point out, since we're talking about stats, is like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander only averages 6 assists a game on a team that's averaging like 120, 130 points a game. Like, what are we doing here? You know? So with all of that being presented, it comes down to it strictly being a narrative award. The fact that Shea is getting all of this like hype is ridiculous in my mind. Cause like you said it too, and this pains me to say because I'm such a big Thunder fan, but he foul baits. And I don't know how he's garnered the whistle that he's garnered, but it's insane watching him. Every time he goes up, like he contorts his body a weird way and he gets called for a foul. Every single time. I'm like, bro, what is going on? So like there's a good portion of his points that do come from free throws. I think that's whack. If Jokic had half the whistle that Shea would have, the stats would be even more inflated for Jokic. So like I said, going back to the narrative thing, I think this has become completely a narrative award. People are sick of seeing Jokic win the award, which is fair. I think if Jokic would have 0 MVPs at this point, we wouldn't even have this discussion. It might be even a discussion of unanimous MVP like Steph got in 2015.
Right.
So there's that. I think the fact that Jokic isn't your normal, like, you know, he's putting up these ungodly numbers. Like we obviously just talked about 60, 10, and 10. He had a 30, 20, and 20 game like last month. Like, what is that, bro? Like, that's 2K numbers, legitimately 2K numbers. So yeah, people are tired of seeing him win the MVP. They want someone else to win it, but this is his best season historically he's ever had. If he's ever deserved the MVP, it would be this year. But people are creating a narrative around it that they're trying to get Shea to win it, which would be absolute robbery at this point. Jokic should have 4 MVPs already. They robbed him off the Embiid one that they just gave to him because Embiid wouldn't stop crying about winning the MVP. Yeah. So that's kind of my position on it. You know, I'll be happy if Shea wins it because I'm a Thunder fan, but at the same time, you want your team to win MVPs that, like, he won because he was the best player and the most valuable player, not because there's this huge narrative around it. And again, I don't understand the NBA and the media just trying to push the narrative so hard. Like, I just don't understand it. I guess it's just because he doesn't. And like you were saying earlier, I think you touched on just a little bit kind of the media talking about the 60, 10, and 10. If that was Steph or KD, that'd be on front page ESPN for a week.
Yeah.
The next morning they were talking about the Lakers in their next game. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand the coverage and everything. Like, he's not in a big market. He's, you know, a white boy from Europe, so he's not going to get, you know, maybe the attention that some of the other guys get. But I think that there should be just no discussion whatsoever this year. But that's kind of my opinion on the MVP race. I'm not sure if you had too much to add to that or anything. I know that was kind of a lot, but I'm not sure if you had a rebuttal on any of that stuff I kind of laid out or anything. But
yeah, no, I didn't have a rebuttal, but like I said, I was going to look up the free throw points that they each scored. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 591 free throws made out of 656. So obviously that's 1 point for each. So that's 591 points at the free throw line. Any guesses what Jokic is?
Oh man. High 300s, early 400s maybe?
High mid 300s, 342.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's way less, and that's kind of just showing crazy. That Jokic doesn't get the calls, he doesn't get the whistle that Shai
and
gets.
He's a big man. He's down there theoretically more than Shai is, and if you ever look at his arms, he's always scratched up and like bleeding.
Yeah, dude is battling, and you don't hear him whining, throwing his head, doing all this nonsense. You know, he obviously shows a little bit of frustration, but that's just wild, just absolutely wild. That's over 200 extra points that Shea gets at the free throw line, and that just absurd, just absurd.
Yeah, on any given night, his total points for the game, give or take, it's usually about 25 to 30% of his points for any given night is from the free throw line. I saw a stat on that, so it's kind of crazy. There's a lot of Twitter trolls that'll be like, just turned on the Shea game and this brother's already at the line. Like, it's always like a picture of him being at the line when they turn on the TV.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, we'll see what the MVP. It looks like they're gonna rob another one off Jokic, unfortunately. It'd be cool to see a Thunder guy win it, first guy since Russ, actually, and he averaged a triple double. But yeah, we'll kind of see. It'll definitely be a little bit tough to see him win that one, with the circumstances that are presented. But we won't spend as much time on these other awards. But I did want to get into the Defensive Player of the Year award just a little bit. Wemby was basically going to win this award pretty unanimously. If he would have stayed healthy. Obviously he went down with that blood clot thing about a month ago or so, and he's been out for the season. So since then it's kind of been up for, up in contention, I guess you could say, as far as who was going to win it. Draymond Green, when Wemby went down, was not even in the discussion. I'm just going to put that out there. His odds weren't even on the table. And basically since then, again, I'm going to go back to the media hype. Draymond Green has talked himself, and the Warriors have talked Draymond Green into the Defensive Player of the Year discussion. Obviously since the Jimmy Butler trade, the Warriors have looked a lot better on defense, but instead of Jimmy Butler getting all the praise for him kind of turning around defensively, for whatever reason, again, I think this is media driven, Draymond Green is now kind of being lauded for that turnaround as the best defensive player, blah, blah. After Wemby was first went down, the second best odds were Evan Mobley over at the Cavs, and then Dyson Daniels was getting some love as well over at the Atlanta Hawks. He's been turned into a really, really good player this year. But Draymond Green is now the favorite to win the award, believe it or not. So I'm not sure if you had too much of an opinion on this one. Obviously, you're a little bit of a Warriors fan, as I remember, but what do you got to say about this media narrative around these awards and Draymond Green putting himself in the middle of it like Draymond Green does?
He's always putting himself in the middle of everything.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, his I think there's a clip once a week of his podcast where he's just saying the most okay, he knows how to get views, but dude, you're still playing. You can't be saying these things. But anyways, is Dyson Daniel, he's with Atlanta, is he the Australian? I
think so.
They have that nickname for him.
Second year.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think he should get it. I know Evan Mobley's been playing really well as of late, especially this year.
Cavs have been a wagon this year too.
Cavs have been so good, man. So good. They can beat the Celtics. They win the NBA Finals, but that's a different conversation. Yeah, I think Green's just talked himself into it. And like you were saying, I perfectly agree with everything you're saying. The Jimmy Butler trade has helped him in the fact that they're winning. So now the narrative, a lot of media attention is being even more so turned towards the Warriors. It's always going to be because of Steph. Anywhere LeBron, Steph, or KD is, that's what they're going to talk about. But even more so now that they're winning. So I think that's the only reason that Green's even in the conversation right now, is because you can thank Jimmy Butler for that, because when you win, people will talk about you, and when they talk about you, they'll look at your team a little bit closer. So it is
just
what it is.
He just has such a big mouth on him. He was on First Take a couple of days ago explaining why he thinks he deserves the Defensive Player of the Year. I'm like, who does that? What NBA players going on ESPN shows trying to, a politician trying to get votes for why he should win? That's for his And his whole career, bro, he's always written checks that Steph and Clay and other guys on this team have had to cash for him. I'm like, dude, what? He annoys me. But anyway, we'll see kind of what happens with that award. I really hope he doesn't win it. I think Evan Mobley should probably win it. Cavs are crazy good. If the Thunder weren't, doing what they're doing, they would be right in the thick of all the conversation for the best team in the NBA, but they also have
Absolutely.
the Celtics in their conference. So we'll see what happens with that. But moving on to the most improved player, won't spend too much time on this. Cade Cunningham is by far and away the favorite to win this award.
Yeah.
Mainly because he has the Pistons as a 6 seed right now. They might end up as a 5 seed, which is crazy. The Pistons have been so bad for so long, but it looks like they finally have something together to maybe build on and everything. Cade's always been a good player, struggled with injuries. Oklahoma State product, so obviously he's got that for
Yes,
him going
sir.
for me. But he's probably going to win it. But the narrative around this one, I guess I'll mention, is just that these whole things, like, everybody's so mad about every single award at this point. But there's a lot of people saying that it shouldn't go to a lottery pick, and basically 6 out of the last 7 years or something like that, it's been by a top 5 to 7 pick that's won it. So I'm not really sure what you had to say about that. The other contenders are Christian Brown for the Nuggets. He's a really solid player. He's really blossoming into a really good defensive player for them. And then Austin Reeves, which would probably be my pick. He's really come on this year. Like, he was a good player last year, but man, he's kind of taken that third option role for the Lakers right up. So not sure if you had too much to say about that, but
yeah, not too much to add. I'd give it to Cade. I really like the story. I was super high on him coming out of college. Obviously, like, really, really good college player. Unfortunately, it is his decision, but went to Oklahoma State. They could have made a decent run in the tournament. He played during the COVID year, right?
Yep. Yeah. Good memory.
So
We won one game and then lost to Oregon with Peyton Pritchard.
yeah. So again, super high on him. Good to see him playing. I think he's going to be a perennial all-star. Like, if he keeps this up,
I think
up and stays healthy, I think he's going to be like an all-star every year. Reeves is a good shout, but I would definitely give it to Cade if I was picking or voting on this thing.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he deserves a lot of credit for lifting that Pistons team up. Obviously, they have some good pieces now with Asar Thompson over there and a couple good centers, but he's obviously the driver of that. And I kind of agree with you. He's made to really be able to thrive in today's NBA. He's kind of like a more athletic, Luka Doncic, honestly. Like, he's got a really good shot, plays really good defense, point guard, can handle the ball. So if he stays healthy, he'll be able to do really well. So
yeah. Just quickly, I remember I sent you that reel and it was talking about kind of like back to the Jokic and Shea thing, but most of Cade's points, he doesn't go to the free throw line. He doesn't look for fouls. He plays straight up. And that's what I really respect about him. Like, he is just a pure scorer. Like, gets to the bucket, good frame, good size, has a good shot on the outside, but gets inside, plays off 2 feet. Like, just really skilled, just really good. Humble dude, too. You don't hear a whole lot. I mean, granted, he's in a small market team. They're making some noise this year, but you never hear anything about Cade, this, that, or the other, anything negative about him. Just a solid dude playing basketball, helping Detroit, make some noise this season. So I have huge respect for Cade in all aspects, not just his game, but him as a person.
He's smooth to watch. He's kind of like Paul George, where he's just like super nice to watch him play basketball. So I remember people were getting hype about him at the Team USA camp last year too. He was making some noise there, so it's cool to see that as well. So yeah, I hope he wins it, just because Oklahoma State product, that's kind of a cool story. The whole reason he went to Oklahoma State is because his brother was on the coaching staff. So that's how we got him.
Gotcha.
But his 1 year at Oklahoma State, bro, that was electric. Like, anytime he needed a bucket, he would score, like, every time. I'm like, dude, this is great.
Yeah. Didn't he win National Player of the Year that year?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
He won National Player
I was
going
to
to
say, I couldn't remember. I didn't want to say it if I didn't remember, but yeah, he was crazy good in college. So good.
Yeah, he was a baller. Next award here, we have the Rookie of the Year. This one's pretty done and dusted. It's going to be Stephon Castle for the San Antonio Spurs. Can't really say I've watched him much this year, but he's by far and away probably going to be the Rookie of the Year. The other contender is Zachary Risacher. I'm not even really sure how to pronounce his name. He's played for the Hawks as well. But it looks like Castle's going to win that award pretty easily. The last one here we have is sixth man. We have Peyton Pritchard, Malik Beasley, or Russell Westbrook is actually being mentioned in there as well. This one looks like a runaway too with Peyton Pritchard. I'm not sure if you had much to add to that. I know you're a pretty big Peyton Pritchard fan just because of his play style and stuff. But anytime I think about him, I just think about him just launching half court bombs at the buzzer last year in the playoffs. He scored like 5 of those things, bro. Several against the Mavericks too, and I was rooting against them in the finals. So I was like, oh, whatever. But so that's kind of the breakdown of the awards and everything. Obviously, you got pretty into the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, but we'll see how these awards are kind of voted on and everything. I don't think that they actually come out with the winners. I know that they like spread it out throughout the playoffs. I don't think we'll know all of them until like the conference finals at least. So we'll see how those kind of shake out. But last thing we'll touch on here on the NBA is just a couple of Hall of Fame inductees. We weren't initially going to talk about it, but right before we started the pod, we saw that Dwight Howard is going to be inducted into the 2025 class. He's going to be joined by Carmelo Anthony, Syracuse product. So
represent.
Obviously some huge names there. Some guys we grew up watching. Multiple all-star appearances, all NBAs. Unfortunately, Melo never won an NBA title. That's going to be a big thing for his legacy, but obviously still, at his peak, one of the top 5 players in the NBA, I would say. And then Dwight Howard at his peak, man, like he peaked, like his peak was only like 2 or 3 years, like 2010 to 2012. But man, what he was doing on the defensive end of the ball, like, oh my goodness, so good, amazing. Man. And then he dragged the Magic to a finals in there. I remember that. Then he's able to get a title with the Lakers super early on during the bubble, which doesn't really count in my opinion, but whatever. So what do you got to say about these two legends going into the Hall?
Yeah, super hyped for Melo. Obviously a Syracuse alum. Yeah, and for people who listen to the podcast, I'm from upstate New York, so root for Syracuse by association for sure. First ballot Hall of Famer, definitely. Like there was no doubt that he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Great career, just lacking the championships. Pure scorer.
Sorry to interrupt. It was super weird how the NBA towards the end of his career just decided they didn't want him on a team anymore.
I know, for whatever reason,
weird.
They just like gave up on him for no reason too. Again, he's another one of those players where there was nothing negative associated to him.
His last couple of years when he was a free agent, like once he finally decided to embrace a bench role, it was baffling that he wasn't on a team. Like he definitely could have contributed like 10 points a night at least or something like that.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a huge push. Like the NBA was getting younger. There was like a lot of guys coming from Europe and different things like that. So I think, yeah, the league kind of just gave up on him pretty quick when he started getting older and started moving around. But a lot of people say that he's the best one and done college basketball athlete ever. Some are saying Cooper Flagg might take that title this year, but but regardless,
if he wins a title, it's going to be a debate.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a debate for sure. They'll be talking about that for a while. But cool to see Melo get in. Dwight Howard. We were talking about this just really quickly. Like, we didn't even realize Dwight was like officially retired. Like he just like nobody wanted him, so he went to play in China for a few years. Not sure if he's still playing in China, but I guess the league was just like, yeah, you've been gone long enough. I guess you're retired. He's getting into the Hall of Fame. So how's that work? Because like I remember just last year there was like rumblings where it's like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was like there were some teams looking for some size, and like some people were just throwing out like, sign Dwight Howard, like just put him on the roster.
He said himself he would play for the Lakers because they need a center. They need a center really bad. And they can't get much worse than Alex Len or whoever the heck they have on their team. So just sign Dwight Howard.
Right. Yeah. I just don't know how that works. Like if you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, like can you not play anymore? Like that'd be, I don't know. I don't even know how that works.
So I'm looking at his team history here. The last time he played in the NBA was for the Lakers in 2022. And then he played for the Taiwan Leopards.
Is he still playing for them? Like, is he
No,
still
so
playing? Okay.
it has him listed as a free agent, but the last time he played for them was 2024. So,
Gotcha.
but I mean, his NBA resume is absolutely insane. 3-time defensive player of the year, 4-time defensive first team, 8-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA first team, NBA champion, yada yada. So,
yeah, cool to see. Cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. So, but yeah, that'll kind of round out the basketball portion of the podcast. Obviously, had quite a bit to go over as far as the award races in the NBA and the other games. Very very excited for the Final Four coming up this weekend. Very excited to get into that tomorrow and watch those games. I'm sure we'll have. We might even have an emergency pod after those, depending on how those go, how hyped they
Yes,
are.
sir.
Maybe.
Maybe
But we'll
stay
see
tuned.
about that. But yeah, that'll kind of do it for the basketball portion. We'll get into the soccer portion here in just a moment. Hopping over the pond as we usually do for some European football coming at you hot on this Friday afternoon. We're going to start out in the Premier League and then hop over to some cup news around Europe and then finish it out with a little Champions League talk. So first thing we're going to start out with is my Gunners victorious against Fulham at the weekend. 1-0, but it does come at a costly price, is the fact that Gabriel, our big center back, is out for the season with a pretty hefty injury, which is extremely frustrating with Real Madrid right around the corner here in a couple of days, Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe. I immediately texted my buddy who's an Arsenal fan from work, and I was like, I actually texted him before the game, but I was like, why are we playing so many starters against Fulham? We have a Champions League spot, basically a second place spot locked up. We're not going to catch Liverpool. Rest everybody. I don't care. Whatever. Just rest everybody for the Real Madrid game. But no, of course, he starts everybody. Gabriel out for the season. So that's a huge loss. Glad to get the dub, but whatever. Saka actually scored, which was nice because it was first game back in a long while. But whatever. So our defense we're gonna have to start Jakob Kivior or something back there against Real Madrid, which is super tough. Moving on to Man City. Easy win against Leicester, but the biggest news coming out of Man City at the weekend is Kevin De Bruyne announcing he's going to leave Man City at the end of the season. Not sure if you've seen too many rumors about him going different destinations or anything. I was thinking Saudi just because I haven't seen too much, and I could see him going over there. But what do you guys say about the great Kevin De Bruyne? I felt like he kind of fell off really quickly. Like a year, maybe 2 ago, we were like, he's the best midi in the world, and now it's like, oh, yeah, now he comes off the bench all the time, and now he's leaving. So,
yeah, it was definitely a sharp fall from grace for him for sure. Like it just like kind of happened like he was dealing with some injuries and then like he came back from injury and he was just like never the same. So I don't know. Those probably definitely played a role because definitely when you're older, those affect you more. But great career. I loved watching him like as a midfielder myself back when I played in high school and stuff like that. You always watch your position, and he was one of those guys that I watched closely because just loved the way that he could pass the ball. Dude, you look up De Bruyne highlights, like top 10 De Bruyne passes. Dude, so good. Like I don't even know how he saw half the passes that he made.
Was incredible.
Dude, so good, so good. Sad to see him go, but obviously, as all things do, they have to come to an end at some time. But yeah, like you said, I haven't heard too much. I know everyone links everybody to Miami just because like they have that thing going on with David Beckham over there. So I don't know how
like
true
a
is
limit, or does that just not apply to Inter Miami as far as like international, like foreign players?
There is a limit, but
designated players, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think there's a limit, and I think Miami is exceeding it, but they have some sort of exception or something like that.
Of course, yeah, because it's Messi's team.
Because I think it's something about them being a new team. I think that they allow, like, as you're building your club, they allow you to bring in more non-domestic players or something like that. Some loophole that Beckham's using to have the 2008 Barcelona squad on his team. Like I don't know, because like I said, everyone's linked there. Griezmann's been linked there. I know Pogba's been linked there for a little bit because Pogba's coming back here soon. Pogba still has some left in the tank. He's going to Europe, but
I would hope. Dude,
yeah,
Messi is never living down the FIFA boy allegations with all this stuff going on. But I remember they had to clear a roster spot or like a designated player for Luis Suarez to sign there. I'm not really sure. So there's something going on. All these players can't be always linked to Inter Miami, but I do think that he'll probably end up in Saudi just because injured player, end of his career, he might spend a year, maybe two, just getting buku money over there and seeing how it yeah, maybe he'll sign for one of those teams over there and see how it goes. But it's unfortunate his Belgium career. There's so much drama coming out of Belgium every single offseason. He wasn't able to kind of elevate them to at least a big time final or anything. But yeah, end of an era, I guess.
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Go ahead.
I just looked it up, and it says MLS players can have given the right to have 8 international players on the roster, and each subsequent expansion teams were given the right to have 8 slots for inaugural season. Yeah, so like I said, something about I mean, they're not a new team now, but something about that must have carried over, and they're just like allowed to have that many.
FIFA probably extended it because it's Messi's team. He needs as many former Barca and whoever his guys to sign.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Miami didn't win. Let's get Kevin De Bruyne and Griezmann over here.
Right. Let's just sign.
Who's next? Mbappe? Like, good grief.
Yeah. 8? That means they're like 3 away from just
that used to be like 3 or 4. I remember when Thierry Henry played for the Red Bulls. Like, that was a huge like restriction that he couldn't have more than like 2 or 3 European dudes on his team.
Right, dude.
But anyways, whatever. We're not here to talk about the MLS. We're here to talk about real.
That's
real
right.
football.
Real soccer. Frick the MLS. Frick them.
Oh yeah, we're pro USL on this podcast,
dude. Heck yeah, we're gonna have a whole segment dedicated to pro rel in America.
That's right.
Here we go.
Right. Yeah. Moving on. Liverpool cruise against Everton. There's a lot of 1-0 results this last weekend, but there's a pretty big controversial no call against Everton. Ultimately, it didn't matter though. Liverpool were able to knock off Everton 1-0 in this one. They're kind of cruising to the title at this point. So solid win by them. Really all they have to play for now is the Prem. Not too long ago, we were talking about a quadruple, blah, 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 but got knocked out pretty early from the FA Cup, obviously got knocked out of the Champions League, and then the Carabao Cup, they lost. It was in the final. Does the final already happen?
The Newcastle, exactly, right? But no, not Newcastle.
Yes, it was to Newcastle.
That's right.
I know Newcastle won it, but I can't remember. I think it was against Liverpool. But anyway, talks of quadruple not that long ago, and now they're just going to have to settle, quote unquote, settle for a Premier League title here. So big props to them. I do like the football they're playing under Arne Slot now. Obviously, he has that team chugging away right after Klopp leaves just a season before. It's always tough to kind of get that transition period down, but he's done it very, very well. So next to last game we'll touch on here is Chelsea winning against Tottenham. As an Arsenal fan, I always live to see Tottenham losing, but Chelsea get a good dub here and propel themselves into that 4th spot, really challenging for the Champions League here, right above Man City.
Yeah, hopefully we can hold on to that. We were not playing well the last few weeks. We were like dropping games to Brighton. I know Palmer's been hurt. He just came back. I think he had an assist in this game. I did not see this game. I think we were talking. I saw that it was on, went to put it on, couldn't find it. I think it was on Peacock. That's why I couldn't watch it. But anyways, good to see us winning games, even if it is against Tottenham. Tottenham just, I don't know, man. Ange ball just not working out anymore. It's getting ugly over there. But good to see the boys in blue winning and grab all 3 points.
Yeah, Tottenham somehow, as much hate as Man United is getting for being so terrible, they're under Man United. So
that's crazy.
14th place. Let's see how many points. Okay, so about 14 points above relegation, but still 14th place out of 20 teams for Tottenham. That's not the standard over there, even though they're not. No. The standard is not winning trophies, but they've at least been top 6 or 7 for multiple years now. So speaking of United, they go down to Forest at the weekend as well. Nottingham Forest solidifying that Champions League spot in number 3 now, 57 points. 4 points from Arsenal in second, but also 5 points ahead of Chelsea right now, or Chelsea are in fourth for that last Champions League spot. So I do hope that Chelsea obviously sneak in there above Man City, but really cool to see Forest really hanging on here towards the end. It does look like they're, barring an absolute collapse, it looks like they're going to get a Champions League spot again. We had this a little bit with Aston Villa last year. I don't like Aston Villa, so I wasn't as happy for them, but I am really excited to see Nottingham Forest. A team who has won 2 Champions Leagues back in the is it 2 Champions? They've at least won one back in the tournament. So
yeah, it was back when it was called like the European Cup or something
European
like that.
Cup, exactly.
Yeah, and then it got rebranded, but it's the same tournament.
Yeah, I just can't remember if it was them or Aston Villa that had won 2 Champions Leagues. I know that Aston Villa had won it, but it was them. So they won back-to-back Champions Leagues in 79 and 80. So
powerhouse back in the day.
Yeah, with Brian Clough. The only reason I know that is because I watched a soccer movie back when I was in high school about him. Pretty cool. We should watch sometime together. But anyways,
nice.
Lastly, here we're just a little bit of a look ahead into the weekend. Big time Manchester derby, Manchester City and Manchester United at the weekend. Manchester City obviously are going to try to be gunning for those Champions League spots, like we just touched on. Man, you are really just playing for pride at this point. I think their manager is still trying to figure out a play style that suits them. Obviously, he's gonna see a big time roster turnaround after this year. So we'll see what Man United is looking like next year. But I still think that they're gonna come ready to play, even though they have nothing to play for, just because it's an inter-city rivalry. They did beat them last time they played against them. It was that crazy last minute winner. They actually scored 2 goals in the last 5-6 minutes, and that crazy angled whatever shot that Amad Diallo had from the left side that ultimately sunk Man City. But I would love to see Man U to get the win here. And then we also have Chelsea Brentford at the weekend. Only reason I mentioned that is because of our boy Fizzy Boy and the implications of the Champions League race here. So who do you see coming through in both of these games to gain the advantage here in the Champions League race late on?
Yeah, I don't know. The Man City and Man U, dude, that's just a toss up because the way Man City's been playing, you know, if this was last year, 2 years ago, this wouldn't even be a game. But I don't know. It could be really interesting for sure. Man City really need to. They're sitting in fifth right now. Yeah, fifth right now, and that's only. I'm assuming that the English Premier League's gonna get that fifth Champions League spot. We're all assuming that just because they're one of the stronger leagues in Europe. But I don't know, man. I'd probably take City just because they have the squad, they have the better coach. I think Man U's just their new coach is just tearing everything down to the studs at this point. He's not keeping anybody. He's got people going out on loan. People that used to play don't play anymore. So that's just
what United needs. So
just a whole redo. Man City's just old. That's their problem. They just got to get new players and they're gonna splash money in the summer.
Finally gonna need a rebuild over there.
Yeah. Brentford scares me though, because Brentford's that team that nobody wants to play. Man. They're frisky, man. They're frisky, and
it's always them and Brighton.
It's always them and Brighton. They're just their club formula, like how they make rosters and like sell and buy players. So good. But just the way Chelsea's been playing of late, yeah, we got to win against Tottenham. But like you alluded to, Tottenham's 14th in the league. Like, so yeah. I mean, if you just look at the table, Brentford's the better team. So it will be an interesting game. Like I said, Brentford's really frisky. So I don't know. Hope the boys pull it out. I'm going to pick Chelsea in this, but not too sure about it.
Yeah, Brentford and Brighton just have that formula. Like, we're going to make a team that's good enough to beat or tie the big boys, but also not good enough to actually challenge for anything substantial. Just going to be like good mid-table. Like, we'll beat the bigger teams and some of the smaller teams, but then also tie and lose against teams we should be beating after that. So that's because they have formula, but
it's because they have young talented players, and so when they play the big teams, these young talented players want to show out, so the talent shows out. But then when they play someone like at their level or below, they have young immature players that don't, you got to bring your best every day, and they don't do that. And so like that's why they're kind of like this frisky team you don't want to play, but at the end of the day they have the talent to compete.
Yep, for sure. Moving on to a little bit of domestic cup competitions here. We had several riveting cup games at the weekend. Firstly, here, we'll talk about the biggest one. Third tier in the German system here. Arminia Bielefeld qualified for the domestic cup final by beating Bayer Leverkusen. This is their fourth Division One opponent that they have beaten in the cup so far. They started out by beating, I believe it was Freiburg, which is a team that's challenging for Europa League spots in the first division.
Wow.
That was the round of 16. Quarterfinals, they beat Werder Bremen, who has an extensive cup history in Germany, doing really, really well there. And then in the semifinals, just beating Bayer Leverkusen, who won the league and cup double last year. Absolute wagon last year with Xabi Alonso. So very, very impressive win there. Going up in the final against another team who is in the Champions League spots this year in Stuttgart. So we're going to see how they do there. On paper, you're going to think, oh, Stuttgart's going to win that. But Bielefeld have won against 4 Division One teams. I think they're going to be playing that game pretty close, I hope. So this is shades of my hometown team last year, coming from the second division and going all the way and winning the domestic cup. So big props to them going that far. Probably didn't see too much of this game. So, but I'm not sure if you have too much to say about the big time underdog third tier. That's a big step down there. Going all the way in the final here is why we love those domestic cups.
This is why we love European soccer, because you can have stories like this, and maybe it's all like the lack of March Madness Cinderella wrapped up and they threw it into the Bundesliga, the German league over here. But I don't know. I love to see it, and they're playing Stuttgart, so it's like, dude, like they could mess around and win this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not like Bayern.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Bayern.
they're not playing like Bayern or Dortmund or anybody like that. Like, you got a fighting chance, like, and you beat Bayer Leverkusen, so it's like, that's a solid team. Obviously not the team from last year, but still a really good team.
Yep. Yeah, moving over to Italy, Milan and Inter playing in the semifinals of their domestic cup over there. This one's played over 2 legs. It's not just a one-off like in Germany. Tied in the first leg 1-1. I'll get your opinion on that one in just a second, because I'm sure you at least saw the highlights with Pulisic playing for them over there. The other side has Bologna after they win 3-0 against Empoli, looking very likely like they're going to be in the final there. But what do you got to say about Milan tying against Inter once again in the Milan derby?
Yeah, I mean, we've showed out against Inter this year, but like, dude, we're sitting 9th in the Serie A table. Like, it is not looking good for Milan. Like, Pulisic's going to be there for a while, but we need to get a coach that's going to play the talent that we have. We got to get some guys out. So not a good show domestically, but it'd be cool if we could come away with a win against Inter, and then beat whoever we end up playing in the final. Obviously, with that 3-1 win, it definitely going to be that team. But yeah, I actually didn't see much. Like, I've been so like basketball oriented this month that I have not been keeping up. Once that's over this weekend, dude, it's gonna be full bore. NBA, Premier League, Serie A. We're gonna be back. We're gonna be back. So I didn't see much about this, but not looking good for Milan.
Yeah, we'll see. Everything to play for in the second leg. Obviously, it's at the same stadium, so it's not like you're going away or anything like that. So,
Right.
Would love to see Pulisic win a trophy from Milan. I don't think he's done that yet there. So a little bit more on the Milan side there, but they've been struggling in the league. So we'll see if they're able to get it together against Inter in the second leg. But moving over to Spain now, we have the El Clasico in the final coming up here in a couple weeks, but in the semis, very, very riveting games in this one. Barcelona squeak past Atletico Madrid 1-0 in the second leg, after a very, very crazy first leg where it was 4-4. So they basically started this game at 0-0 basically. But they're able to squeak past Atletico with a very strong win there. Barca are kind of the kings of the 1-0 score line this year. I don't know what really is going on over there. They kind of do just enough to to win, and that's about it. And then on the other side, Real Madrid getting past Sociedad 5-4 on aggregate, having to go to extra time in this one after a 4-4 score line on the day, just because of that initial 1-0 win in the first leg, and then they were actually down 4-3 going into extra time, so that made it tied on aggregate, and then they were technically tied on the day 4-4, but then 5-4 on aggregate. So absolutely crazy game there. Endrick coming in clutch. But what do you got to say about the semis here over in Spain? Crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure. Cool to see another El Clasico. They're kind of the cream of the crop right now. Like La Liga is super top heavy with the likes of Barca, Real Madrid, Atleti. Even though Atleti, I just saw they're 3 games back in the table right now, 9 points off the top. So kind of reeling after their loss to Real Madrid in the Champions League. But no, cool to see Barca still flying. Real Madrid, obviously, they've kind of hit their stride. Had some early struggles in the season, but finding a way with all this talent that they have, like just a luxury. And I think I don't even know if we've touched on this. They have a commitment from Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool, who they'll be getting in the summer. So yeah, definitely loading
for free,
up. I know,
bro.
for free. I know they've been talking
Rudiger,
to Alfonso,
Mbappe,
Dude.
Alaba, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Are they still trying to get Alfonso? Or is that
I
kind
don't
of
think so. I think
shifted
that's
sail?
off. I'm 99% sure he's going to probably sign a new deal with Bayern. I think they officially offered him. So.
But dude, when I saw this, I was like, Marcelo 2.0. Like,
I know
Marcelo is a better defender. Like I'm not going to take that away
for
from
Davies
Marcelo,
or for
but
Trent.
Like,
okay. I thought Davies was
what,
more Marcelo than Trent, but I can
really?
see that comp too. Yeah.
I think Davis is more of an athlete. Marcelo had flair.
Fair.
That's why we liked watching him. But Marcelo could pass the ball like over the top. The long balls is what Trent has.
His first touch too.
Oh, silky, dude. We could go. Oh, that's a whole nother conversation, dude. Like, we grew up with some ballers, bro. Grew up with some absolute ballers. But no, that's an interesting move. But back to La Liga in Spain. No, another El Clasico, and these games usually end up being really good. I know Barca's kind of taken it to Real Madrid the last couple times they've played, but no, it'll be another good game to watch Mbappe and Lamine Yamal and all them go at it.
Bro, for whatever reason, Barca has spanked Real Madrid the last 2 times they've played. Put up, I think, 4 goals in each game. And like I said, this whole Barca season has really been predicated on 1-0 victories here and there against teams they really should be beating up on, but they just kind of squeak by. And then against Madrid, they just decided to score all their goals. So Madrid better get it together, and I feel like not just win, but I mean they have to look really strong doing it, just because you can't. Not only can an El Clasico defeat not be by that big of a margin, but 2 games in a row, like y'all better come out to play. So and I do like the Trent Alexander-Arnold addition a lot. He's gonna, just right off the bat, I feel like get along really well with Jude Bellingham, playing on the national team together and everything. So I can see them just being dangerous again. I think he's taken a tiny bit of a step back, this past season or so from Liverpool, except or compared to where his prime was maybe a couple years ago. But I think at Real Madrid, they have so many just great players there that he's going to really be able to shine and play in his role a little bit more freely. So, but like you said, love to see an El Clasico in a final with a trophy on the line. So,
yes, sir.
Last cup competition we'll touch on here is the one in France. Usually wouldn't talk about France, but Dunkirk almost didn't pull it off, but almost pull off an incredible upset against PSG. They went up 2-0. But ultimately lose 4-2. So Dunkirk is in the mid table of the second division. So that would have been another incredible upset. PSG, it almost felt like they were toying with them. Like once they scored, like right after halftime, they were like, all right, like, we're just gonna put a little 3 or 4 goals on you boys. So I don't know what was going on, but not much to say here. Like obviously it was an almost, it didn't really happen, but that's why we love to see these underdogs going up against the big boys. And PSG is like, they're so far ahead of everybody else in France. It would have been crazy to see them go down, especially against the second division side.
Right.
But yeah, that'll kind of do it for the cup competition. We're gonna get into a little bit of a Champions League preview here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, just because we've already gone pretty long on this segment. But we'll get into the 4 matchups that we have for the Champions League, starting out with my boys over at Arsenal against my other boys, Real Madrid. So we got a. For this is probably the best tie of all of them, at least in my opinion. Obviously, I'm biased, but obviously Arsenal coming in a little bit banged up. Saka just coming back from injury, obviously losing Gabriel for the season. That was so tough. Like the partnership that him and Saliba have at the heart of our defense is incredible. I think it's our most important part. I think we can kind of cover up for when Odegaard is out, kind of cover up for when Saka is out, but it'll be tough. It'll be interesting to see how our defense lines up against Everton tomorrow. I'm not even sure if Saliba plays, but if he does, what that looks like. So that's obviously really tough. Coming into a massive game in the Champions League against perennial winners Real Madrid. So Real Madrid coming in pretty good form, struggling a little bit in the league as far as results, but still end up winning usually, even though they don't look necessarily great. Obviously, this is Real Madrid's competition. They probably come in as the favorite. There was some rumblings about Mbappe and I think it was Rudiger being possibly suspended for this first leg. I'm not sure if you saw much about that, but they might have been cited for indecent behavior after knocking Atletico out of the tournament last couple weeks or whenever that was. I'm assuming that it has to do with like the reel that I actually sent you and them just riling up the Atletico fans. I didn't actually go into much research into what specifically that they did, but ultimately they're not going to be suspended. They're going to have their full team. So I'm not sure what you see in this tie here, but this breaks my heart. But I have Madrid going through. Ultimately, just the better team. Championship or Champions League DNA. And I just think that they have the healthier squad. So
yeah, health is going to play a huge factor. I got Real Madrid going through too. Pains me to say that as well. Yeah, the injuries to Arsenal is just gonna be the biggest factor that really hinder you guys from putting your best
Saka's
foot
not going to be at
forward.
100, unfortunately. I don't think so.
Yeah, you got players coming back, players out. It's just it's not looking too good for Arsenal at the moment, but still an intriguing matchup nonetheless. Definitely going to be watching it, and probably one of the it's definitely one of the bigger ones coming up next week.
Yeah, for sure. Really good tie. I don't think it'll be a blowout either way. So, next one we'll look at is Dortmund and Barcelona. On paper, Barcelona look like the clear favorites here. Dortmund struggled in the league all year, but still doing well in the Champions League. Obviously, went to the final last year. Just a team that chugs right along in the Champions League. They obviously beat a good Lille team last round in the Champions League, but going up against a formidable opponent in Barcelona here. I got Barcelona going through on this one. Like I said, it should be pretty easy for Barcelona on paper, but Dortmund kind of just chucked those plans right out the window when they play a big team in the Champions League, as they showed last year. So I think Barcelona eventually get through, but I think it'll be by the skin of their teeth and really, really close. Would not be surprised if Dortmund would knock them out, though. Dortmund have been known to knock Barcelona out of the Champions League in the last few years as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely am going to echo a lot of the words that you just said. Barcelona can't play with their food here. They cannot, absolutely can't play with their food. Like we were talking about, like Brentford in the Premier League, like being one of those sketchy teams you just don't want to play. Dortmund's that in the Champions League, like you alluded to, not doing so hot domestically, but I called them a few pods ago, like the mini Real Madrid. They don't end up winning it, but just for whatever reason, they turn up in the Champions League, which a lot of teams do, but for some reason, Real Madrid and Dortmund just are always in the mix near the end of the tournament. So I got Barcelona moving through too. Just can't mess around. Got to get the job done. Don't leave anything to chance, and you'll move through. But yeah, an intriguing one nonetheless.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Barcelona, I feel like they've been known in recent years. They have a pretty decently young team, so I feel like they've, like you said, kind of played with their food a little bit in some of these ties, and it's come back to bite them. Not just in the Champions League, but in the league as well. Like I feel like last couple of years they probably could have taken Real Madrid more to the end of the end of the league, and Atletico, obviously, if they didn't squander away leads that they had against some of the smaller teams. So really just got to lock in on this one. Third of the four ties here is Inter Milan against Bayern, two teams at the top of their respective leagues coming in big form. I have Bayern going through on this one. I think Harry Kane very quietly is putting together a really good season. Not just domestically, but in the Champions League. If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, he might be the top of the Champions League goal scorers table as well. So we'll see how Bayern are able to come into this one. I just think defensively, Bayern are just a little bit more solid than Inter Milan is. And they've been cruising in the league for quite a while, so I can see them taking that momentum into the next round and beating Inter Milan. And they also have Musiala, who's playing really well. So
yeah,
he's come on a lot. People don't talk about this. It's a little bit off topic, but everybody's talking about the Euros, like Musiala and Musiala and Yamal, and like nobody really talks about Yamal anymore because he's not really doing great at Barcelona. Like anytime you see him in the news, he's missing a penalty or has like a goalless streak going on. And Musiala is just absolutely killing it at Bayern team, who are finally like back at the top of the table, kind of running Germany kind of type deal. So looking like Musiala is the better bet going forward. But anyway, so you got in the Inter Milan Bayern game here.
I actually got Inter in this one. I think Bayern's gonna run out of luck, and I'm really high on Inter, not because they're in the Serie A or anything. I think both leagues are kind of like level in that respect. But I don't know. Inter's just like consistently been a good team in the Champions League in their league the past like 2 to 3 years. So I wouldn't say they have the better players, but I think just all around they're the better team. And their coach, I think, has the potential to outcoach Company. Company being a newer coach to one of the top 5 leagues.
Could see that.
I mean, he coached what was it? Burnley like last year, 2 seasons ago when they were in the Premier
Got
League.
relegated with him.
Got relegated, did not do hot. Was surprised to see him get the
killing
Bayern
it in the
job,
second division though.
Absolutely killing it. But I got Inter in this one. A little bit going against the grain, but yeah.
I think that one's probably the most even tie out of all. Well, Arsenal, Real Madrid, maybe, but Arsenal with their injuries, I would say Inter and Bayern are probably the most even ones.
Yeah.
And then lastly, here we have PSG, Aston Villa. This one looks like a typical giant versus minnow kind of situation, but Aston Villa have a sneaky good attack with Asensio and Rashford, who they picked both of them up on loan back in January. They've been doing pretty well in the league, nothing crazy. I think they're still, upper mid table, maybe 7th or 8th type vibe, but still a decent team. They're obviously in the last 8 here of the Champions League, not for no reason. They had a little bit of an easy tie, in my opinion, in the Champions League last round, but I do fully foresee PSG going through on this one. If PSG score early, I can see them having a little fun and maybe running up the score and on aggregate, at least in this one. The only thing PSG has to avoid is kind of switching off. Obviously, they had a massive tie last. Who did they beat last time in the Champions League? They had a huge tie against was it Man City?
PSG?
Did they knock Man? Yeah, didn't they? No, it was Liverpool.
Liverpool.
They knocked out. Sorry, I couldn't remember. But they're obviously going to come off that high and everything. Obviously, playing in a really weak league could come back to bite them a little bit. But obviously, they've shown the quality that they have in their squad. They just have to avoid kind of switching off and being like, "Oh, Aston Villa, we can beat them." But obviously, with a solid coach and everything, they should be just fine. And I have them winning pretty comfortably in the end against Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa is hurting a little bit on the defensive side. So
yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I think I got PSG as well. Not as favorited as most people might think, like you said. Aston Villa, like, dude, it's so weird when you get some of these smaller teams that make Champions League, and then they just start and getting all these like crazy loanies. Like they got Rashford and Asensio right now. So it's kind of like,
who would have thought they would have played on Aston Villa 2 years ago?
I know, it's looking like a my manager on FIFA right now. Super weird. I just when I thought about this take real quick about Aston Villa, like with their squad and the loanies that they had, I was just like, imagine who's going to come out of the woodwork to play for Nottingham Forest next year when they're in the Champions League.
Yeah, that's a
like
good point.
Ronaldo coming from Saudi to play for Nottingham Forest in the Champions League. Oh my gosh.
Yes, bro.
I remember people saying that about Newcastle, like, because of the Saudi money and all the ties. They were like, oh yeah, he's gonna come back when they're in the Champions. I don't know. That was just the first thing that came to mind. I thought that was kind of funny, but that'd be interesting to see if it actually happened. But no, I got PSG. Sure. I think they're actually playing really well. Their model that they have as a team, they've gone away from signing. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but they've gone away from signing like these superstars to getting really, really, like, they still spend a lot of money, but they sign younger talent now. So it's more of a build for the future type of model, I guess you could say, opposed to what they've tried to do in the past.
Yeah, their middle to front is one of the best in Europe still. Like, they don't have like the biggest name they probably have is Kvaratskhelia, or whatever you pronounce his name, on that left wing that they just bought from Napoli. And then Dembele, if you want to call him a big name, he's been killing it at PSG this season. And then they have the really young Barcola, but their midfield, bro, with Neves and Vitinha, like, that's just so good. And those guys are younger players that they obviously bought and are kind of trying to quote unquote develop, even though they're pretty established national team players. But they're very, 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 very good. I can see them winning the whole thing this year. So
yeah, no, PSG is definitely a contender this season for sure. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of the Champions League wraps up. I know a lot of people don't watch it, but this is one of the biggest tournaments in the world, and it's super cool to watch the best of the best, like we were talking about in the Final Four at the beginning. Go at it head to head. That's what you want in these tournaments, and that's what we got. But I think that's a pod, Sammy.
That is a pod.
That is a pod. We appreciate you guys sticking with us on this Friday night, coming at you a little late. We've both been pretty busy. I know Sammy's still trying to put his house back together, and that can be a daunting task and
we're getting painstaking.
We're getting there. But again, we appreciate you guys. Might come at you guys with a emergency pod tomorrow after the games if it gets a little wild. I don't know. Maybe if we have like an Auburn Houston in the final or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll do one anyways. We'll see. But
if it's blowouts both ways, we're not going to be coming on with an emergency pod.
Yeah, no. if it's just like Duke rolling Houston and Florida taking it to Auburn, you know what? We'll see you guys on Monday maybe. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys will check us out on all our platforms: Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And again, if you could go to the Instagram and follow that and try to get us to 100, that would be awesome. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.